Sometimes I think of my collection as a co-pilot, as somebody that's been with me on a journey, and it's a journey of self-discovery. What I was truly looking for were, why are these things giving me so much pleasure and joy? And it was never competition. There was never the acquiring. I needed to have the most of this James Bond thing. It was never showing people that I have it. It was never the braggadocious moment. For me, it was a reminder. When I look at a watch or I look at an item in my collection, it brings me back to that location, or it brings me back to that point of the film or the conversation I had, the moment I had with family or friends. I remember the food, the sound, what I was wearing, what she said to me to support me on that. Like, all these things come rushing back. I'm a very visual person. It's what I do vocationally, what I do. So I need these visual cues and collection in my life to bring me back there. So it's the co-pilot. My name is David Zaritsky. I'm a James Bond collector who absolutely loves the world of James Bond lifestyle. So much, in fact, that I've created the #1 James Bond YouTube and Instagram. For me, I always thought it was about the James Bond lifestyle and the aspects, and it's probably more about how people appreciate and have adoration for something like James Bond. My father's a great example of this, very successful business person, but was not the type of person to throw a ball in the back with me. I'm not blaming this on him, but he was never the type to go, let me explain what's happening in this game of football or soccer, etc. The one tie to each other, the one indelible bond, was watching a Bond film together. He would invite me in and we would have that very isolated moment together. And I would love to think that there's something very sophisticated about, oh, I would look up and watch his face, but I truly just enjoyed the escapism, maybe with him. You know, maybe if I look back on it, I could sort of squint and see that there was a moment of discovery of understanding my father. But all I remember is that those were one-on-one moments with my father, which I really didn't have. So yeah, that just brought us together in a very dedicated way. This particular Longines has quite a connection for me. This was my father's watch. The man who was sort of my template in life, but also introduced me to Bond, my other template in life, so to speak. What I loved about this watch is I remember him wearing it. You know, I remember, the diamond flakes, I remember the gold, and I do love the uniqueness of it. This is something that I typically would not see, this type of watch. Back then, you had unique shapes and designs, but not everything was overtly men's or women's. And because of that, my wife has sort of adopted this watch. She had a very, very close connection with my father. They were like best friends. So I think there's that emotional connection. But even sartorially, she loves gold. And so I dare say she probably wears this as one of her most go-to watches when she dresses up. This was actually my father-in-law's. And my father-in-law is fantastic, but he is one of those people that all throughout his life has just bought too much, would use something and then just put it down. And he said, hey, you're interested in this? And it wasn't working at the time. And I said, I would love to do the research on it. It is now working and in full working order. I love the charm. I'm a huge fan of Hamilton, the story, Hamilton, the brand, what they've done, the uniqueness. But again, this is one of these things that harkens me back to when I was a kid with Star Wars, when I had my first LED Star Wars watch with R2 and 3PO on it. I knew that if I didn't accept it, it was one of these things where it was just going to see the darkness of a drawer. This is another one of these family heirloom rescues. My son loves it, so I assume someday I'll pass it on to him. Sometimes it feels like the world of collecting is sort of this giant game of tag. You have one person that makes a decision somewhere that I've used this on set. It's meaningless to me, but I would love to have my kitchen redone, so I'm going to sell a piece from the production to somebody else. Tag David Zaritsky, you're it. I have the search, I have the find, I have the acquisition, and then I have the appreciation. It's the reason why I've created this display, so I and others can appreciate it. I would let go of things that weren't quite as meaningful, wouldn't give me that level of joy. I would tag somebody else, something that somebody's coveted for a while that I know how special it made me feel, but I can see the preheating of how it's going to make them feel special. It works for everybody. It allows me then to help invest and fund elsewhere into those focused moments of joy, but it helps the person receiving that to pay this kind of continuation of journey of the collection mobility. So I was a pharmaceutical representative walking into doctors' offices trying to convince them to use brands. And I remember there was a time when I said to my wife, I'd like to get us watches. And this wasn't a coercion plan of if I get one for me, I'll get one for her. But this was a system of basically truly wanting us to have nice watches. And I fell in love with Tag Heuer. Back then, I was very much into minimalists. You know, just having something very simple, something that would blend in, all silver. And I remember just the size being right, the thinness of this, the lightness of this, but the comfort. Rather than something that's wearing you, you're wearing the watch. And that is different. I've definitely tried on some watches that pinch, grab, feel like, honestly, real estate or having its own zip code. This doesn't. This feels like it just blends seamlessly in with your body. Bond and I had a hiatus, from when I was young, and the reawakening really came in the form of Pierce Brosnan, where a lot of that was through the world of style. I was a young executive, didn't know quite how to dress, and I wanted to use some sort of emulation pattern to do that. And Brosnan's Goldeneye, and especially his Tomorrow Never Dies, did that. And I took it upon myself to capture these moments. I knew that I could share them with others. So I filmed a rather innocent review of a jacket, and I posted it. That one exploded. And very quickly, and I mean within the first 2 months of that video hitting back in 2012, I had to sit back and go, there's something here. There's an entire audience, a community of people that want to follow this type of information that it can provide, reviews, Bond lifestyle, locations. And I thought to myself, is this going to be a job? Like, is this going to be a responsibility that I didn't want? I found out feedback and the community was growing so quickly, I had no choice. I just let the wave take me. Well, the match that lit this powder keg, so to speak, is, as I was really reaching for that template of Bond style, I knew I needed several things. I needed a good pair of shoes. I wanted a suit that fit me like Bond. Oh, and I needed a watch. But it wasn't until Tomorrow Never Dies when I saw a watch become a co-star. And so I needed to have it. And I remember the feeling of it. I think that's the thing I most remember. I remember putting it on my wrist, and there was a heaviness. And there were two types of heaviness. There was a heaviness of weight. I was almost shocked at how heavy it was. But the other heaviness was, it was the first time I would ever feel a connection between an object and an emotion tied to a character, tied to joy, tied to moment. And the heaviness that I felt was all of these things coming together. So for 9 to 10 years, this was my only watch. I look at it and it tells story. It tells a story of, the first time I wore it, the first time I hit it on a piece of cement right there and it got a nick. The first time I got a little piece in the bevel when we went on vacation. This to me is a map of my journey, and it's the beginning of the journey of Bond. If I really take a look at what were the two amplifiers of not just my channel, but even Bond fandom around this kind of world of lifestyle, the first one was COVID. We were all in lockdown. People were looking for a source of entertainment, communication, but the biggest thing, belonging. But the other impact point, which maybe is a little bit more controversial, but I'm just going to go for it. Young men, I think, have forgotten or not been taught the pomp and circumstance of certain appreciations in life. How do you light a pipe? How do you shave? How do you take the pomp and circumstance of making a slow coffee? What about fine wine? And we've stopped that in so many cases. We've stopped the appreciation of those slow moments. But I think Bond allows you to do that. Is it old world? Is it traditional? Yes, but it's something that I don't want to lose. And then I found this entire community that are like, they're old souls. I mean, 21-year-olds that are looking to live that type of lifestyle and retain that moment. And it's refreshing. The first 3 Daniel Craig Bond movies had a major impact on me. So just to bring everybody back, one of the things Brosnan had done a great job with me is getting interested in Bond again, interested in the sartorial world. So I was primed. Then you gave me a long break of hungriness, and then you gave me a feast, which was Casino Royale. And I knew when this watch came out, I was already obviously an Omega fan, but this was something so different. I did have to ask myself, is it too big? And I tried it on. I remember looking at myself and I said, I can just pull it off. Bond is a weapon in Casino Royale. Bond is a tool. He's a blunt instrument. This is a tool. It's rough and tumble. It's a knuckle duster. And it's got nicks and bruises and blemishes. And I remember there was a great moment where Omega, when I was doing things with them, said, hey, do you want us to replace some of the things? And I said, not in your life. That's like saying, do you want me to erase your memory as far as the stories that have happened in your life? Because this is one of these watches that has traveled the world with me. So the Quantum of Solace, this was one of these, do I get it? Do I not? I mean, my gosh, it looks so similar until I tried it on. And I realized very quickly that this was a different feel. Suddenly this ooved in a very sleek way. The band felt different on my wrist. I would put it on and there was a comfort level. There was almost like it's a bracelet that moved as an extension of me. And it is my go-to. I would say 2 to 3 times a week, this watch is going on. So this is the Aquaterra from Skyfall. Beautiful. Look at that blue, my gosh. With you've got kind of the boat deck striations. I wear this watch quite a bit to my company. So if I'm slightly more dressed up, I have the Skyfall Tom Ford tuxedo. Nothing looks better than this watch with that suit. The pairing of that was made for each other. The blues, the differentials, the connection, the movie, and just bringing the whole look together. It feels very complete. There's something so rewarding about creating something out of nothing. For example, going to a dam in Switzerland and bungee jumping in the same spot that Pierce Brosnan, allegedly, he didn't, it was his stunt double, jumped off of in the movie GoldenEye. I don't think that we're satisfied, which is why our collection of creating things and experiences is never over. That has literally dovetailed into me creating events. I mean, when you talk about world building, when you talk about excitement, that's the very epitome, that's the very definition of doing that, creating all of the different parts and pieces, having that type of control, and then seeing the fruit of the labor come to bear and create joy. It's amazingly satisfactory. My channel's there. I don't need more audience members. I don't need accolades. So I have taken it upon myself to look to other content creators who are looking for a mentor, a Sherpa, a guide, and give them whatever nonsensical consult that I can possibly give them that has helped to serve me. And I invite them onto my channel to be my guest, to be a co-host, to be a co-host at events. And I found that initially I did it to help others, to support others in their journey. And I felt just such an amazing amount of satisfaction in what I saw these people do, how serious they would get. And then suddenly they would start to do it to other people. And I love that. I love the fact that, we've become these wonderfully positive vampires. I bit somebody and they bit somebody, and horrific analogy, but it's just so positive because we've all learned that it's very inexpensive. It's not a luxury item to be kind. Quite frankly, this collection, as proud as I am of it, I guess, as enjoyable as it is nothing compared to the friendship and the community and the connections, the engagement that I've had with humans, with others that are like-minded. This was always a watch I wanted, the 14060. Rolex to me will always be tied in with Bond. I almost feel like, this particular Rolex, if Omega hadn't popped its head up, could this be the continuation model that would have been on the wrist of a Pierce Brosnan? But we love it. And when I say we, my wife wears this as much, if not more than I do. It's just so classic. It's so clean. It's so simple. If Omega is the beefy Mustang, this is the sleek Aston Martin. It's just got sort of the lines to it are so clear. And it remains a treasured part of my collection. So this is a mid-sized to small brand called Atelier Jalaper. And what was fascinating about this watch is the face of it is actually part of the hood of a DB5. And then they took like driving glove material and sort of replicated what the driving glove of someone wearing an Aston Martin would be with the bands. You wear a piece of a car on your wrist. So it's for people that, like us, love cars, love watches, and in this case, love James Bond. It all comes together. Pretty recently, I started to restore the 1978 $6 Million Man. I had it as a child, and I rediscovered the old shows. And again, that nostalgia, that synapse of nostalgia being so powerful in eliciting joy. And I found that the very first piece that I got in was broken. And I started to fix this. And I'm not a DIY guy. I mean, my family can attest to this, but I found that working in a very quiet, closed, and finite atmosphere, which is the absolute polar opposite of my job, was so peaceful to me. It was a reparation of sorts. And I wound up getting more tools and then buying more broken dolls. And now I've got a whole bunch. And as people have seen me do videos on this, they've sort of reached out, and I just sent out my first complete one. I've got 2 more that I'm going to be sending out to friends and people who have just said, oh my gosh, I lost mine. I wish I had mine to put on my desk at my office, or I wish I had that. And I just tell them, I just need your address. It's the act of taking these things that were broken, forgotten pieces of junk, working a little bit on them, which gives me joy, and then paying that joy forward. Yes, it's a collecting item. It's a piece of plastic, but it does something to the dopamine. It helps to spread that feeling. I would say overall, I think I have from a style standpoint, let's say, a nice mix. And as I look across all these watches, whether it's the story of family, whether it's the story of heritage, whether it's the story of time, of first times, whether it's the story of Bond or culturally the older Bond connection, story always played a role with sort of me as the center character. And I think that's a part of watch collecting. I mean, it sort of gives you a spotlight. It shines it on not just the watch, but as an identifier of who you are and what your story is. The thing about the Bond experience, even my collection, quite frankly, is it's been at the whim, sometimes even the victim, of time and circumstance. The great thing about it is I don't know what's around every corner, and I'm here for it. I try to pride myself of being not just a collector, not just an appreciator, but of a journalist. I want to be at the forefront. I want to put my helmet on, get into the trenches, and battle whatever comes before us. But most of all, I just want to experience it as a fan. I just want to be taken along for a ride. It's very exciting.